me some ice. Skin me a peach and save the fuzz for my pillow. Poach me a prawns, talk to me nice. You got to wine me anytime. Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Peel me a grape.
I'm Laura Bonicelli, and we are cooking with Italian style. It's not always fast, it's not always easy, and it's not always Italian. We use the freshest and finest ingredients that we can find and afford, and we not only savor the meals we make, but we savor making them. That is cooking with Italian style. This week, we're making a dish that's straight off of my solo delivery menus. That's homemade ravioli stuffed with squash, a little Parmesan, and a secret ingredient. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's amaretti cookies. Well, let's get cooking. We always had some sort of pasta on special occasions in my family when I was growing up. And if it was a really, really special occasion and someone could talk my Grandma Lucy into it, we'd have ravioli. Now, she made her ravioli stuffed with meat and with a meat sauce that was sort of a typical bolognese type of thing. Today we're making a squash-filled ravioli, and I'm serving it with a sage butter. Absolutely marvelous. I've already got my pasta made, and it's under here resting in a little olive oil. If you go to my website, solobybonicelli.com, and look under the recipe section, tomato basil sauce with pasta, that'll tell you how to get it to this point. So let's work on our squash filling. I bake my squash by cutting it in chunks, brushing it with olive oil, and then putting it in a 450-degree oven on a sheet pan for 20 minutes, and then lowered the heat to 400 until it was cooked completely through, which, as you can see, it certainly is. Now I'm adding amaretti cookies. That is 8 small ones crushed, and an egg yolk, and a cup and a half of grated Parmesan cheese. And now, to really, really bring out the flavor of the amaretti cookie, I'm grating in some fresh nutmeg. I'm going for about 3/4 of a teaspoon. A little salt, a little more salt, and mix it all up. Oh, it smells great. Now, this is how I do this. I'm taking a pastry bag and cutting the tip off. And I'm going to just open it up and fold it over my hand. Open it up further. There we go. Forms a cup, and then we just scoop in our beautiful squash filling. I think I can get one more in there. Oops, I lost a little. There we go. That's great. You don't want it too full. It gets too hard to manage. And now I'm just going to pull the top up like this and twist it, and then just set it aside. I'm going to start by cutting my pasta dough into 6 pieces. I don't like to work with pieces that are too large just because it gets hard to handle once you put them in the roller. So for this amount of dough, 6 is about right. And you'll see I'm putting them back into the olive oil so the cut edges don't dry out. If the dough dries out, it pretty much is very impossible to work with, so you don't want to let that happen. Great. And then taking one of my pieces of dough, I'm just going to basically take it and form it into as close to a rectangle as I can get. And run it through the machine once. This is the second time. And each time I put it through, I'll bring the rollers in using that little knob at the end there to make it come out even thinner. Looks good. And again. And I'm getting lucky on this one because this is pretty wide, so I'll be able to work with this nicely for the ravioli. But this time you'll see it really start to lengthen out, but the last time is when it really, really gets thin. And that's what's going to happen now. And this is going to be perfect. Ah, yes. Okay. So squeezing from the top, I'm going to take my ravioli filling and just spacing them out so I have enough room to cut in between and seal them. There goes my filling. Okay, and now I've got a little egg white with water that I've mixed up. 1 egg white with about a tablespoon or 2 of water. And I'm going to go all the way across the top. Now, why I'm doing this is it needs a little help in sealing. And this dough is pretty soft, but it'll start to dry out quickly. So across the top and then in between each. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is a good seal, because when I'm folding it over and sealing it, my job is to get as much air out as possible. So you notice I did not seal the bottom yet. There's no liquid down there. First I'm going to go across the top edge and pressing to put them nicely together all the way across the top. Great. And then down in between each one. And again, I'm trying to get as much air out towards the bottom as I possibly can and seal them to the best of my ability. If I don't do this, they fill up with air when they're boiling, and then water. Not good. So now I'm going across the bottom, and you can see my little pillows are forming rather nicely. And I'm going to, just a little more there. Good. And now I'm just going to go and finish sealing them across the bottom. Still working to get that air out of there. It's looking good. If I did have air in there, I could take a little bamboo skewer and poke it and work the air out that way too. Just in case you wind up with some that have bubbles. And then I take my pasta cutter. My daughter just gave me this. It's great to have a good one. Go right in between, all the way down. Okay, that's done. Get rid of that. You can use those scraps, by the way, for soup. That's what my grandmother always did. My grandmother always did this in like 2 large sheets laid on top of each other. She didn't have a fancy cutter, she just used a knife. But we always had scraps for soup. I'm gonna have to fix that. I think I went off the edge there. Okay, great. And now the bottom. And I'm using, enough force to get through this with one pass so that I'm not trying to go back because that gets messy. Okay. Pull off that and there we have it. Aren't they cute? And these are just perfect. Okay, and I'm fixing that one that I didn't quite get. And it looks like I have another one too. Okay, well I'm going to finish these up and then we'll get moving on to our sage butter. So what I have here is half a stick of butter, and I've layered some sage leaves, cut them down the middle, and now I'm cutting them sort of chiffonade style into the butter. This is what my sauce is going to be, and let me tell you, this is totally delicious, and this is all there is to it. Basically, I just am going to let this sit in the butter for even 2 minutes, and it's fabulous. I'll just stir it around here, and I'm going to turn the heat off and let it just melt on its own. Great, the sage smells wonderful. A large pot of water up to a rolling boil. I'm going to throw in some salt to flavor my ravioli, and then toss them in gently, but they're sturdy. You don't have to worry too much about them. I like to do 6 to 8 at a time. Okay, you go in there. Great. I think I'll test one. It's been about 3 minutes. Perfect. Okay, let's get these guys out of there. They really cook pretty quickly, much, much more quickly than commercial pasta does, because it's fresh. Come on, get out of there. Okay, and to plate, here are my ravioli, and this is my sage butter. Just a little bit more. God, you can smell that sage. It's just awesome. And what that will do against that wonderful stuffing, it's going to be just great. A little Parmesan to garnish. And then some sage on the side. Isn't that beautiful? I really hope you enjoy making my squash ravioli with sage butter and cooking with Italian style. Buon appetito!